Hey guys, I'm here with Cujo. He actually goes by the name Krazy Cujo. He's actually one of the pioneers of a ton of the breaking and breakdancing that you see today. Definitely a legend. So Cujo, I want your advice for maybe kids or students who are trying to maybe pursue a career in the creative arts field. I'm a drummer, you're a dancer, and you do this for a living. What are a few tips that you would give to someone who maybe has already found their passion in dancing, art, skateboarding, photography? What are some things that inspired you to continue a career in dancing?
Well, one of the overarching principles that I've followed and continue to follow is to learn the rules, learn how things are supposed to be done, the proper way to do things. Like if it's a physical discipline like dance, then learn your technique, learn your form, you know, learn your steps, learn your moves, and learn everything the way that it is generally considered the appropriate way to do these things. But don't be afraid to be different. Don't be afraid to experiment. Don't be afraid to put your own spin on these things early on. Lots of people will tell you learn the rules first so that you can break them later as a fine piece of advice, but there's nothing wrong with trying to figure out where your wiggle room is, where you can kind of dig between the moves, between the rules, and find these oh, I don't know the best way to say it, but you know, just being in the margins of these different ideas, these different approaches, whether they're different disciplines. Sometimes you can, you know, make music while you dance, and that can be a thing. You can combine or merge two disciplines in unorthodox ways, and that's not very unorthodox. That's pretty common, actually. But you can think along those lines. You know, don't be afraid to try things like that early on, and don't feel like you have to wait 10 or 20 years after mastering a craft to be creative with your craft. Try to be creative right off the bat.
So it's still important to learn the foundation, let's say if it's dance, and then while you're learning foundation, still try different things, right?
Always try different things. I mean, my approach personally right off the bat was not what I'm saying. What I'm saying I learned later. I you know, yes, I learned a few things about what you're supposed to do and how you're supposed to do it, but I largely dispensed with a lot of that and said I want to be completely different. I want to be so original and so unique and idiosyncratic that everyone will know my movement style without having to think about it. You know, and that was my goal. And I dispensed with all of these rules, all these foundational techniques and things like that, and foundational ideas, fundamental ideas, and I suffered for that. I was recognizable, but it was also recognized that I was missing a few things. And so later in my career, I went back and picked those things back up. And if I had to do it all over, then I would follow the advice that I'm giving now, which is to sort of pursue these ideas side by side. Create while you're learning. Rather than creating instead of learning.
Gotcha.
Or learning instead of creating. They can go hand in hand.
That's great. So Cujo, lastly, what is maybe a quote that one of your mentors, or maybe even something you live by, that inspires you to continue to do dance every single day?
There is a quote from Pablo Picasso that I can't recite word for word because I don't remember it. But it had to do with him reflecting on his career near the end of his life. And it was kind of a cautionary tale in that it is an example for artists who followed not to follow, if you know what I mean. He was basically saying, don't do what I did. And what he did was he kind of did whatever he wanted. He had this kind of clunky, interesting, unorthodox way of painting that was distinctly his, and that's great. But he also recognized that there was a kind of absurdity in that, and that there wasn't a greater value in some way that he had sort of visualized, and that he was doing these things because he had benefactors, rich benefactors, that were egging him on, and that would like proposition paintings from him, you know, and they wanted to buy his paintings for lots and lots of money, and so they would like commission these ideas, and he would just kind of do whatever people, what he thought the people wanted, rather than what he thought was not just what he wanted, but something that would benefit humanity on a greater level, on a deeper level, right? Like going into high art versus going into pop art, you know, crossing that threshold, like he regretted in some way, on some level, that he wasn't able to do that, that he followed the money instead of following this idea of creating high art.
Yeah.
And so I've tried to retain that in some way. Now, this is difficult to do in something like breakdancing, which is by definition a pop art, you know, and has been for over 40 years. But it's something that can be applied with technique, proper attention to form, for example, because that's part of what makes a classical art form classical is that attention to detail and attention to form and technique. But then it's what you're saying with it. Are you just doing or pursuing self-expression, or are you creating something that is greater than yourself? And to me, that's been very, very important. Now, I can't, it's not a quote per se, but the idea behind this quote that I can't remember is, I think, of great, great value and great importance.
If you guys want to check out Krazy Kujo, please look him up on Instagram. His videos are amazing. Look up at Krazy Kujo with the K, K-R-A-Z-Y, K-U-J-O. He actually leaves to Jordan next week. He travels internationally to dance everywhere. So, Kujo, thank you so much, brother.
You're welcome.
Peace out, everybody.